Well, we did it, everybody. We traded a PGA Tour player for a PGA Tour caddy. We don't even know his last name. He's just Chris the Caddy.
It's Le Caddie. It's French. But either way, he's got some great stories from when he went to Merion.
Merion, I hear that's a great course. We also dive into the other side and some insight between player and caddy relationship on tour.
Am I allowed to drink?
Yeah, of course you
It's
are, dude.
encouraged.
We don't see.
It's non-alcoholic because I do have an FCC license, so it's all good.
Yeah. We Mike and I talked about doing a YouTube channel and putting our mugs on the screen, and we're just not there yet. And I mean, it would be,
We're a lot of plastic surgery away from that.
yeah, a lot of editing. We need makeup artists, and Mike and I really can't afford that yet. Rough Fairways hasn't kicked off too much for us to afford makeup artists, but here we are.
Well, I've got a face for radio, so it's all good.
We do. Me too. I think most golfers do have faces for radios. Well, maybe unless you're DJ or who are the good looking guys on tour?
Oof. Max Homa.
Max Homa?
I don't know. I mean, they're all a little goofy, especially when you look at their profile pics that they put on TV. They're always halfway to making a weird face.
That's true.
Well, they're halfway to making a weird face, and they don't have their hats on, which is, like, in my opinion, criminal.
It is, because you never see their hair.
Well, one, you never see their hair, but they have that horrible, like, hat line.
Oh, yeah. The Stewart sink.
Out all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like their foreheads are stark white, and then the rest of them is, like, really tan. It's a horrible image that the PGA Tour puts out of them.
Is the golfer's tan the best tan of tans?
Oh, yeah. It's the most defined.
I think that, yeah, it is, because not only runners may have the second best one, but they can at least run without a shirt on. But they've got the horrible foot thing happening too.
That's true. Or you ever see the golfers that wear like the taller socks, like the half up your calf, and then that's all they play in, and then it looks like they just have like this white sock up. It's pretty funny.
Well, the best is the bald, like the Stewart sink, the bald, and you take your hat off and it's just.
Especially at the end of the day when you've been in the sun, there's nobody that can hide from that.
Sunday after a four-day tournament on a Sunday, just.
Yeah, but Chris, you got a good set of hair, and you wear a hat for a living because you're on the golf course and you're not going bald. But I mean, I'm losing my hair. Mike's lost his hair, and we play golf. And most golfers, like, if you wear your hat, it doesn't allow your follicles to grow.
Yeah, I've lost.
So you have a great set of hair, dude. I'm just saying, man. Look at that. For being on the golf course and wearing a hat for a living.
Fresh cut today.
You got to get the tall hat. This leaves a little bit of buffer.
There'll be a little room for it to breathe.
Yeah, I guess. Oh. Well, he's Chris the Caddy. That's all we know him as. I don't even know if he has a last name. He probably does.
Caddy.
But it's Chris
French.
The Cat. It's French.
Chris Le Caddie.
And the Le Caddie, and he is the first caddy that we have had on this show, and I think Mike and I have been talking about having different people on in the realm of golf, and maybe we can get Jay Monahan on sometime. We can talk to him about Live. But Chris, you are the first caddy on the show. We love having you here. When we met you in Boise during the playoffs, it was. I mean, we just hit it off immediately when you were on Brent's bag. And thank you for joining us. This is great.
No, it's my pleasure. You're right. We did kind of hit it off pretty well there in Boise. I know Brent had done your show before and spoke highly of you guys. So I'm excited to be here. I'm really happy to be the first, kind of breaking the mold a little bit. But it's going to be.
Let's break it. So are you into golf? Are you a golfer yourself a lot?
Played quite a bit.
Yeah.
I did anyway until I started caddying on tour a couple of years ago. But yeah, I was probably +1, +2.
Okay.
So nice. I could play a little bit.
How'd you get into golf?
Started playing golf when I was like 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. My dad was I wouldn't say he was a good player, but he enjoyed playing and he hung out with his friends and enjoyed the camaraderie. And My dad, before he passed, my dad passed this year during the season. But he just loved to break people's stones, man. He on a golf course, that's who he was on the golf course and off the golf course, and it just became kind of a place where we kind of had a no holds barred session and anything was game. And I think my dad probably invented the back off challenge 40 years ago.
Nice.
Love it.
There was really nothing sacred with him. But we always had fun on a golf course. It's a place where he could go and kind of get away from the world. My parents divorced when I was about 12, so that was where I spent a lot of my time with. My dad was on a golf course. And then after I graduated college and kind of moved back to the area about 10 years after that, a relationship, we were a member at the same club and played a ton of golf together, and it was a lot of fun.
Did you ever have go ahead, Mike.
What transitioned you from golfer to caddy?
So I got out of the real world about 5-6 years ago now.
Good for you.
And when I got out of it, I needed to do something. And I was like, all right, well, I can't play. My wife was not happy with me playing golf every day. So I found a way to be on a golf course every day and get paid. I showed up to Philly Country Club one day and said, hey, do you guys need any caddies? And the guy was like, well, can you play? Have you caddied before? I said, I've never caddied before, but I play a lot. I have a good playing background. And they said, okay, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:00.
Sweet. Wait,
so was that like a job? Yeah,
go back to the real world. What's that mean?
Well, no, when you said you showed up to the course, was that did you take a job, or was there a tournament there you were trying to get on a bag for?
I just went looking for a job. They had a good caddy program there. I was actually trying to go to Philly Cricket, and I couldn't get there because the bridge was closed. So there's two little bridges that go to cricket, and one and or both of them were out, and I didn't have patience. So I was just like, well, I was with a friend of mine, Jim Brown, and JB and I went over to Philly Country on the way home, and that's where I wound up going.
Nice. Love it, as fate would have it. Okay, so can caddies be good? Can you be a good caddy and not have a golf background?
Yes. Mm-hmm. There are guys who do it.
Huh. How so?
I want to say that there's a couple guys on the Corn Ferry Tour that do it. I'm not 100% certain of the PGA Tour. I've only done one event there. That was this year at Napa, but there's a couple guys on the Corn Ferry Tour that don't play at all and haven't really played.
And they're caddies.
Correct.
And are they good caddies? And what makes a good caddy?
I think a good caddy is like a chameleon. They're kind of hard. There's no real strong definition of it. I think everybody brings something different to the table with that. Some people are really good, have good interpersonal skills, and they can read a person really well and understand what they need and want. There are some people that are just data mongers, and they just know every bit of data and every number from every head and every angle, and they can just devour a golf course in a couple of days of prep, and they're 100%, and they're able to just spew data at people, and that's what some guys want. And then there's kind of like the third level of that would be a guy who kind of combines both of them. And then there's the player guy who's been a guy who's formerly been on tour or tried to get to the mini tours and has been an accomplished player, and they just kind of see the golf course the way that another pro would see it, as opposed to seeing it more less professionally, I guess would be the way to say it. But that's kind of how it goes. I don't think there's a mold that anybody can say, like, you need to have these 5 skills in order to be successful as being a caddy. You can be hyper successful at 2 of anything and be really, really good out there, as long as you find the right player.
You a data guy?
I like data. Yeah, I like stats, and I kind of analytics are kind of. I just caddied for Trip Kinney in second stage in New Mexico, and I was a little remiss in my duties, but I just actually finished his stats for all 4 days this afternoon and sent them over to him. So it was how many greens he hit, how many fairways we hit, up and downs, and sand saves. That's kind of what I sent him. But I think those things kind of identify strengths and weaknesses, and I track a lot of things when I work. whether you hit the fairway, didn't hit the fairway, what we hit off the tee, what we hit into the green, what the number was.
You're not going like Matt Fitzpatrick, are you, and tracking every shot he's ever hit?
Not every one I've ever hit, but if I could show you a garbage bag, I have every page of, since I started on the Corn Ferry Tour, I have every pin sheet and every note that I've taken on every pin sheet in a garbage bag now. I'm just getting ready to throw them away.
Ooh, at some point, I'm going to have to give you my address here and send me some of that stuff. And then
I'll need some new wallpaper.
Yeah, I need some stuff back here, some memorabilia. You know how the sports shows, they have all those bobbleheads and the stuff behind them.
We'll get you some.
I mean, I only have a Masters flag of the year that I didn't even go to.
I have a Masters picture from 19 that a buddy of mine that so after Philly Country, I went to Merion and I worked 3 years at Merion.
Love it.
And a good friend of mine worked the summers at Merion and then did the falls and the springs down in Augusta. And he would bring me something back every year. And usually it was some sort of picture that I would frame.
That's awesome. So talk about Merion.
Yeah, dude, it's heaven on earth.
Yeah.
It is the best 108 acres you'll ever walk.
And you caddied there for how long?
About 3 years. I started right after they did the redo until I caddied there last year, but not at all this year. When I decided to go back out with Brent full time, I kind of forego my privileges there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But so what's that like? How does someone who caddies full time at a course decide or get the chance to move over to a tour? You just kind of luck of the draw. You meet a guy, stars align kind of thing.
So I have a kind of unique story. So 2 seasons ago, I went down to Savannah with my buddy John Duffy. If you're on Instagram, he's Caddie Confidential. And we both went down and tried to get a bag for the week. While we were there, he actually got a call to get a bag for a player named Zach Wright out of Texas. And then Brent Grant happened to call Duffy, who Duffy had worked for him, I think, a Monday qualifier a year or two before down in Savannah. And he called and said, "Hey, my caddy and I split the week before. If you're in town, I could use you this week." Duffy's like, "Sure, you're in." So he took Brent and then called the caddy master and said, "Hey, Chris will take Zach." So I caddied for Zach that week and Duffy caddied for Brent. Well, Brent was looking for somebody full-time and Duffy said, "Hey, well, I'd be interested in working full-time." So he said he had another interview with another caddy the week after. Brent called him back and said, "Hey, you're my guy." So I think he worked with them in Las Vegas, Arlington, Texas, and then they were in Alabama, and Duffy broke his foot in Alabama on Saturday afternoon. Brent got a guy
on the course, or
while caddying,
just right after the round, walking down the stairs behind the clubhouse.
Oh no!
A loose stone. Yeah, it was a horrific fracture. It was a complete fracture of his 5th metatarsal.
Ouch.
So yeah, it was pretty bad. We didn't know how bad it was at the time, so he got back to Philly and got it handled. Brent called me that Saturday night and said, "Hey, can you be in Nashville on Monday morning? I need you for a couple of weeks till we figure out what's going on with Duffy." I turned to my now wife and my fiance at the time and said, "Hey, can I be in Nashville on Monday morning?" She said, "Well, what time do you need to be there?"
Sweet. So broken foot got you on Brent's bag. Cool.
Yeah, I just hung out with him in Savannah about a month before that, and Brent and I hit it off well. We had a blast talking. We went to a couple dinners with Duffy, and Brent. I had a blast, and that's ultimately what turned into to my relationship with Brent. That's how it all started, by a broken foot.
Love it. So what did you do before caddying? Did you have like a 9 to 5 normal job like Mike and I?
I did, yeah. I was in sales most of my life. I was a club professional for about 6 years not long after I got out of college. I did some sales stuff for a little bit and then decided, yeah, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Got in the golf business, had a couple kids, and then really realized the golf business wasn't for me. And
it doesn't pay. I mean, it just doesn't.
It doesn't until you you need time to kind of let it get to where it needs to be. And I didn't have it. I had 2 kids by the time I was 30, I guess. Yeah, I was 30 when I had my second child. So I didn't have a lot of time. And I got into sales. I was in the auto industry for a while, and then I got into chemical sales. Did that until I was 45, 46, 40, 46. I guess it'll be 5 years this year. I'll be 51. So
You're 51. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
yeah, I'll turn 51 in December.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is a young man's gig. I'm a dinosaur.
Are you
Wisdom.
okay? So hold on. Let's go there. So, are you the oldest caddy on the Corn Ferry Tour? You can't.
No, I'm not the oldest, but I am one of the older.
The older ones. I mean, it's not. You're right. It's who's ever in best shape. Because, dude, you guys got to be in the best shape. You guys have to be in almost better shape than golfers, in my opinion. I
don't know that we're in better shape than golfers. I think they put a lot more time and effort into their craft than at least caddies on our tour. I had surgery a year ago, almost to the day, to repair my shoulder. I carried all of last year on one shoulder. So
was it your carrying shoulder that you had surgery
shoulder.
On?
I had the issue with, it was my right shoulder. I had that fixed on October 12th of last year, and they told me it'd be about 9 months to get back to 100%, and I got clearance in 5.5.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, but you guys are like pack mules. You're carrying those big bags.
Yeah, you ever talk to one of the pros you've ever caddied for, Brent, whomever you caddied for, and be like, "Hey, dude, I'll get your bag, but can it be like a Sunday bag?"
That's an interesting question. So Trip called me a couple days before we were heading out to New Mexico, and he's like, "Do you want the big bag? Do you want the staff bag, or do you want me to bring the little bag?" And I was like, "Dude, you can bring a dinosaur. I'll carry it. At this point, I really don't care." Like,
That's the wrong answer, Chris. I would have said Sunday bag the whole time. Give me one of those super lights.
Well, here's the problem. Here's the issue with the Sunday bag is you've got to carry gear for 2 people. So if you have foul weather, like, room becomes a real kind of thing. And those tour bags or the staff bags are infinitely better protected from water and elements. So if it gets to be a rainstorm or something like that, it's a lot easier to deal with that with the staff bag than it is like a Sunday bag. I actually have a Titleist, I don't know, something 4 that's a waterproof bag, and it gets wet when it's out there. If you're out there a couple hours, it's getting wet. There's nothing you can do, even though it's waterproof. But I prefer the big bag, to be honest. I can fit all of his stuff fits in it, and then I get my little compartment. And if I need to put rain gear or cold weather gear in this time of year, I've got the room that I need. And it gets really kind of sketchy with the smaller bags to get everything that you need in.
Right. Now, are you a backpack strap, single strap? I know you said you carry on one shoulder.
Last year I was a single strap guy all last year, but I am a back strap guy to the end with those things.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. Trip's bag is very heavy.
What's the heaviest bag you've ever carried?
Trips.
Like, are we talking 70?
It was probably, if I had to guess, it's probably close to 45 or 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy. Most of the, like,
you never caddied for somebody at the course that, was some old guy with 700 golf balls in his pocket?
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yep, all the time.
So in your Merion days, were you a 4 caddy, or were you an actual bag caddy, like for the members?
No, we were a bag caddy. We carried 2 bags.
Okay. Oh, you carried 2 bags.
We carried 2 bags, yeah. Double bag.
Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah, there are many times where...
That's a young man's game.
That's a young man's game.
Actually, Merion's an easy walk. And I know I say this tongue-in-cheek, and my Merion guys are going to... But Merion is an easy walk. Members playing 4 hours. If you're playing much
That's
over
good.
that, there's going to be some letters sent, and there's going to be a few issues if you make a habit of it, for certain. They are extremely proud of their pace of play there.
Good.
If you can play a 4-ball at Merion at 8 in the morning with all members and playing 3:20 or 3:30.
Love that.
Wow.
And that is heaven on earth for a caddy, because you're just constantly moving. And
did they walk with you, or were they on carts? They just no carts, probably just kind of like Bandon, no carts, and just caddies.
Yep. The only people who get a cart is if you have a medical.
Sure.
And they kind of, I don't want to say they frown upon it. There's some people who can still play, but if you get to the point where you need a medical for a long period of time, I'll probably tell you to go play the West.
Gotcha. We don't want you here.
It's not that they don't want you here. It's just that they really don't want the carts on the golf course.
Yeah.
The golf course there, since the redo, is is really their focus, and it is, after the redo, it is just tremendous. It is tremendous.
I think they're going to bring back the Open there, aren't they?
2030.
2030.
Yeah. So they had the Curtis Cup there this year or last year.
Okay.
They'll have a USAM, and then they'll have a US Open.
Okay.
They'll host the USGA stuff. Yeah. It's 2030. I believe it's already there. It'll be the 100th anniversary of Bobby Jones. So they're playing the same road in 30 that he won.
Oh, nice.
I love the baskets. The baskets are the best.
Yeah, the baskets are pretty cool.
They really are.
I worked there for 3 years. It wasn't until a few weeks before I left that I realized that they have 2 different color baskets, one for the front 9, one for the back 9.
Yeah.
I never said I was a smart guy, but because I had 2 colors, and I lived like right off the 12th hole at Merion. I could walk to work when I lived there. And I was making a Merion room in my basement before we moved here. And I went and I was like, wow, we have 2 color wickers. Why do we have, I never noticed it, because I was going to make one wall. The story behind it that I was told is that one is actually Kubota orange and the other one is Toro red, because those are the only 2 colors they had in spray cans that they could paint the colors of for the wicker.
Caddie, for any celebrities, any famous people at Merion come through that you can share?
The owner of the Ravens, Steve Bisciotti.
Okay.
He was phenomenal. Trying to think of some other guys. There's some guys that were playing mini tours then that are kind of still playing some mini tours. I don't want to mention their name. The Yale golf team, I caddy for them a bunch. I know they have some guys that are playing in Latin America, and I think there's one guy who's going to be Corn Ferry this year. Trying to think of who else. Lots of local Philly people, but nobody like outside of Philly. They're Merrill Reese, if you know the voice of the Eagles.
Sure.
Yep.
Did they chat you up? Did the members ever chat you up, or did they treat you like, oh, he's just a caddy and I'm not going to have a conversation with him other than, what's this putt do or whatever? Did you have any good stories of overheard conversations at Merion or any other places?
So, yeah, I mean, being the club caddy is fun. Being the club caddy, especially at Merion, you're more the show than anything. So you're like an entertainer. At Merion, there's like a story for every hole. I can walk through Merion and tell you all the stories on every hole and things that have happened. And but Merion has the golfers at Merion have a really, really a high IQ. They're really like, you're not there unless you're really into golf.
Sure.
I mean,
Right.
It is a golf club. We don't have tennis. We don't have a swimming pool. They don't have like late bar hours. They have amazing food. So you can go and play and have dinner, have a couple drinks, and then you're on your way. It's not like a place where you're there. Like it is a golf club, and it is very traditional. I think it's like, to me, it's heaven on earth. In many ways, I wish I hadn't left, and in some ways, I'm glad I had the opportunity to be there. I'll always be thankful for my time there. It's probably my favorite walk that I've ever had. When I started, that's kind of going to be my swan song in 30 is I want to put the fly or the wicker in on either Friday or Sunday and ride off into the sunset in 2030. That's the plan.
Love it. When's the last time you played golf?
2 weeks ago.
All right. What are you shooting nowadays?
I played 4 times 2 weeks ago. I shot, geez Louise, I shot 78, 74, 73, 76, give or take. I've played 5 times really in the last year since my shoulder, so I haven't played much.
Well, that makes the cut in our group. So,
do you ever caddy yourself? Like, do you ever put yourself in the caddy shoes when you were playing?
It's too hard, to be honest. There are so many times where I say, "Oh my goodness, I would never hit that shot if I would. I would never let my player hit that shot."
Yeah. Is golf for you now like your experimental time? Like you get to do all the stuff you'd never do?
For me, it's just decompression. That's kind of what it's always been.
Yeah.
For me, it's a place where I can go and get away from the world, and I can spend 4 hours with some people I know or some people I don't know. Since I'm brand new in town, I don't have a game. I don't have friends really here, so I just go to the golf course as a signal and try to.
Where are you at now?
I'm in Burlington, North Carolina.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just kind of go and play. It's my place to. It sounds strange that you go back to an office that you're trying to get away from, but I don't go to the golf course much during the season because I'm on a golf course 6.5 days a week.
Right.
Yeah.
But this time of year, when I have some more time, I really, this is my favorite time of year to play as well. I love fall golf.
Yeah, me too.
So I try to get, my in-laws have been in town, or I'd have played the last couple days.
And you probably don't watch a lot of golf because you're working on the weekends during when golf is on.
During the season, I watch zero golf. So
Yeah.
if we're playing during Corn Ferry Tour, when I'm home, I have very little interest in watching golf during the season.
Yeah.
I haven't really watched much since I've been home, but I used to watch golf incessantly, recorded every week,
Right.
watched it on DVR. If I couldn't get through it, I would watch it Monday mornings when we were off before we would go play. When I was a club caddy, we played every Monday somewhere.
Yeah.
We had a good group of guys, and we just go get in the car, go somewhere and play golf. And I would watch the end of the golf, or watch Friday or Saturday or Sunday's rounds on Monday morning on Speed Watch, going through the DVR.
Fast forward
Fast forward
the
5
commercials.
minutes.
Yeah. Right,
So
So you were on Brent's bag for a couple of years, and now
Mm-hmm.
you're. How did Tripp do in Q school?
Tripp was phenomenal. We finished T4 out in New Mexico.
Heck yeah!
Yeah, it was he.
So
played
he's in the
really-
finals.
Correct. We're on the finals.
Okay.
2 weeks.
It's in November. It's in Savannah.
Correct. Savannah, 4th to the 7th, I think we play, which is
Yep.
odd. I think we play Friday to Monday.
Yeah, that is odd. Okay.
I think we end on a Monday. But yeah, he hit it real good. Trying to remember his stats. I can tell you. He hit a ton of fairways and greens. Give me 1 second. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Tripp.
Now that's Hank's brother, right?
It is not. It's
It is-
Kinney, not Keeney.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
I-
Tripp
yep.
went to Iowa State.
Okay.
I think he was 15th out of PGA Tour U last year.
Okay.
He won NCAA regionals 1 year. He's a good player.
Good. So
He's gonna be good.
did he hire you? Are you on his bag
I am on his bag through finals.
through finals? Okay.
I don't have any commitment with anyone following that. I'd love to work for Tripp. We had a great week last week. I don't know what's going to happen as far as the future goes.
Sure.
When Brent and I split, I called him. I actually called him during a practice round for first stage. I thought he was exempt through first stage. He wasn't, and I called him, and he was with another guy. I was like, hey, I sent him a text, and I was like, hey, dude, if you need somebody for second to finals, I'd love to work with you. Give me a call when you get a chance. And
Sweet.
he called me back later that night and was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. And we had a great week last week, and looking forward to another great week and get him fully exempt for next year.
Get that kid his card.
How does the business side of it work? Like, there's not like a caddy organization that hires you. Like, what are the T's and the I's of becoming a caddy? Like, does he pay you, or does it go through some sort of middleman? Like, how's the business side of that stuff work?
So the business side of it is we're all independent contractors. We all work directly for our player. They pay us directly. And it is kind of like a negotiable thing, no different than their contracts are.
Sure. Okay.
Everybody's kind of different. We'll get a weekly rate, and then we'll get a percentage of winnings should they make the cut.
So you get paid if you don't make the cut.
I get a weekly rate, yeah. So,
the weekly. Okay, cool.
So we'll get a weekly rate, and that's the same every week, and then we'll get a percentage of winnings.
Cool.
Yep. So the better that you do your job, and the better you get along with your player, the more money you have the opportunity to make.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's an investment in yourself and an investment in that player. That's the way I view it anyway.
Take us through a routine of you being a caddy. Like, take me like a Wednesday through first round.
So Wednesday's Pro-Am day. So Wednesday's kind of an easy day. It's 9 holes. Most of the Pro-Ams are 9 holes. So we'll play 9 holes either in the morning or the afternoon, depending on what our tee time is on Thursday. The more fun is like Monday, Tuesday are kind of the more difficult days. Wednesday's kind of an easy day. So Monday, depending on where you go, is like travel day.
Yeah.
Some guys will travel Sunday night. I never traveled Sunday night. I think it's too risky. It's too many times the last flight gets canceled or moved or delayed or whatever. So I always try to be on the first one out on Monday morning. Get to where you're going, and then you're on the golf course.
Wait, why are Monday and Tuesday hard?
Because Monday you're traveling. If you've worked the weekend, there's no days off. So you travel Monday morning. You'll get to the golf course. You'll land. You'll get your gear. You get your bag. Get your own car, and then either depending on the time of day, most of the time I would try to go right to the golf course, register, get my yardage book, and go walk as many holes as I can before I meet up with Brent or whoever I'm working with that week. Tuesday, you've got to kind of finish whatever you don't finish on Monday, and you're usually playing 18 on Tuesday, unless your player's been there before. Sometimes it'll be 9 and 9. And that depends when the player wants to travel. They may not travel until late on Monday, and then you have all day Monday to get your coursework done. Then you play 18 on Tuesday and then 9 on Wednesday if you're in the Pro-Am. And then Thursday's game day. That's when the lights go on. It's time to go, to go back to Wednesday. Wednesday's like 9 holes in the Pro-Am, dotting I's, crossing T's. As far as the game plan goes, I call it playing with my crayons. I get my highlighters out and I start coloring up my yardage book and making all my notes. That's what I do on Wednesday night. And then Thursday morning, I've got a pretty good idea on where we're going to hit every shot all day long. And I try to walk during the week where I know the balls will land and where we kind of the areas we want to focus on in the fairway, where our balls are going to land, and know where those heads are and know where the rough is and know where any hazards or out of bounds are on that line, and try to pick better angles to the green, depending on where the flag is. We either want to try to be right side, left side.
Are you a big conversationalist guy during your round? Like, are you talking to your player, trying to ease them, or talking about the next shot? Like, obviously, they're the ones that's going to ultimately hit the shot, right? So they're responsible for where the ball goes. But, I mean, how much influence do you find yourself and your players saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, I will hit the 8. Like, you chose the 8, but they wanted to hit the 7. Do you feel any pressure? Like, oh, he's going with mine. I hope he hits it right, so I'm not wrong, right?
Well, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about making the best decision with the information you have. It's kind of like a hypothesis. It's a best guess. If you're playing wind or you're playing terrain that's up and down, especially if it's steep, a couple of yards, like 1 or 2 up or down isn't really going to change anything, but you get to 7, 8, 9 up and down, depends how close you are to the hole. Does it really play that far? If you're 10, 12, the trajectory of the ball takes into effect how many it will actually play up and down. Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? Ball goes shorter in the morning than it does in the afternoon, especially if the temperatures get warmer.
This sounds just like that Phil interview from a couple years ago when he's like, well, if I'm in the morning and it's got the dew makes more spin. And he just started nerds out for like.
Yeah. It's so all those
I love
things,
it.
The more you do those things, the more it becomes like second nature and you don't really think about them. When I first started, it was tough for me because I bore a lot of the pressure to be right all the time. It was, but now it's, now I'm far more comfortable. I have, I don't want to say a ton more experience. I'm only out there 2 years, but I've got more experience. I'm far more comfortable. But to go back to the original question, I talk a lot between shots, but nothing about golf.
Yeah.
I quote movies a lot. I'm a movie quote line junkie.
Okay, what's your favorite movie?
Probably Ferris Bueller.
Oh, yeah. It's a good one.
Eddie and I speak in Seinfeld every time we play.
Yeah.
There you go. So it was movies. It could be Caddyshack. It could be something that Brett and I have been binge watching together. It could be anything. but yeah, I talk a lot between shots and sometimes it's personal talk we'll have, but it's hardly ever anything about a golf shot or about golf in between shots.
When do you start talking about the shot?
Probably when we both get to the ball and we both walk. We'll walk from the head to determine what the front number is, and we'll agree on that. And then I handle all the numbers. I did used to handle all the numbers after that with Brent. So we would just match the front number, up or down, and then we would kind of go through the process. I would say, all right, well, if it was 150 and we're on 28, it's 178 total. We'd talk about where the wind is, and then we would talk about the shot that we want to hit. How far do we want the ball to go? Rarely did we, maybe towards the end of the year, we would talk more about what club, but it was always about how far we want to hit the shot. What number do we want?
It's always a number, not necessarily where the pin is. It's always let's hit a 156 shot here.
And it could be a 150 pin or it could be a 180 pin, depending on the conditions, the wind. But
you always focus just on that number.
We try to focus on where we want to land it as opposed to how far it is to the hole. So we have 178. There's a flat in the green at whatever number it is, and then the crest of a hill is at this number. Do we want to land short of the crest, into the hill, on top of the hill? How much is the ball going to release? That kind of thing. So in my yardage books, I always have the bottom of hills, the tops of hills, and where it's flat.
When do you know to pull off your player?
Pull off him?
Yeah, just like take him off the shot. Like, oh, hold on.
Doesn't happen often.
Like we got wind or we got this or that,
If something changes, or if I look up and I see something, because even when he'll be talking to me and I'll still be looking at the tops of the trees or looking at the compass to make sure I'm comfortable with where the wind is. If we catch a gust, I'll pull him off, especially if it's off the side, it's not nearly as much, but if it's in or down, that can affect the shot a lot more. If I just, I might say maybe 4 times in my career I've pulled somebody off a shot.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding, or I've done it once where he's been over the ball too long. Stop, reset.
Yeah.
They're thoughty. They're not reacting. They're thinking about what they want to do. Stop, reset, go through the process, and hit the ball.
How many strokes do you think a caddy is worth to the average golfer?
To the average golfer?
Yeah, like take a scratch handicap, like a weekend warrior, scratch golfer. How much better do you think a caddy makes them shoot?
That can be totally. It ultimately depends on how much the player trusts the caddy.
Sure. Yeah.
If they believe in them and they want to believe in them and they believe in kind of like, we are here to help you. Essentially, that's what we do. We're in servitude to our player. If they buy into that, a scratch golfer on a golf course that, like at Merion, it could be as much as 4 to 6 shots. Just because as a local guy, you know where all the breaks are, you know where all the fairways are, you know where the flags are.
Right.
You know where to hit it on the green in order to get the ball to stop where you want it to stop. And there are guys that think that I'm a scratch golfer and you're just a caddy and I'm not going to listen. I'm going to hit the ball.
Just carry my bag, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with those guys.
Past couple of times me and Eddie have played, I was like, all right, you're just the caddy. I just want to see how much different I play when I'm not in charge of the decision making.
Yeah, it comes down to execution too. We can tell you where to hit it, but if you can't hit it where you need to hit it, then that doesn't help either.
Sure.
So that's kind of curious where you're going. So like a scratch golfer could probably hit the ball inside the window that either trajectory or landing where we see the shot. Somebody who's a 10 to a 20 handicap, we can help, but I don't know that we can help as much. It's more about their short game and trusting us on the greens at that point.
Sure.
Because they're not going to be able to hit the ball as close. They just don't have as much control with their irons typically. And, after that, Though you get 20 and higher, it's just a matter of them understanding we're trying to get them around the golf courses in an efficient manner. It doesn't necessarily mean going at the flag all the time. The center of the green is a good spot.
Right.
You
That's
know,
a flag location that ever moves.
Hit it front left. Well, the front left is the widest portion of the green, and we can always two putt.
Right.
Yeah. What's the hardest part of caddying on the course, or just in
Building
general?
trust. That's probably
Building
the hardest
trust.
part. Yeah, somebody
Of the player building trust in you.
correct, of the player believing that they're not believing they have their best interest, but believing what you're telling them is in their best interest, and then them believing that they can execute that. I would say that's probably the hardest part, especially at the higher level you go, because you have it's like prize fighting. You don't just fight in the street for pride anymore. Like, you play weekend golf for pride and fun, but when you play for $1 million every week, you put your pride on the table. It's now all about money.
You think it's just time that it just takes time for the player to?
Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes a shot, or a putt, or a read, or getting the wind that, like, hey, the wind is out of the southwest today. I know it feels like it's not out of the southwest, but above the tree line, it's not it's swirling in these trees, but above the tree line, it's in and off the right. I promise you. Yeah. And then not believing when they drop the blade of grass or whatever, like, oh, well, you say it's in off the right, and the wind's saying it's, across off the left, and that's just because it's bouncing off of trees. But above the tree line is where the real wind is.
You like reading greens?
Do I like what?
Reading greens.
I love reading greens. Yeah, especially, I'm not really good at Bermuda yet because I haven't been around them enough.
Yeah.
But anything other than Poa or Bent, I love reading greens.
Which grass did you say you were a savant with? I remember talking about that in Boise.
Bent. I'm good with Bent.
Yeah.
And Poas. Yeah, I can read some greens with Bent and Poa. There's a couple things you got to know on the golf course that are pretty helpful to reading them, and once you identify those things, it gets easier.
Your players ever just go, okay, I'm taking your read?
Yeah, Brent's done it. Tripp has done it. There's a couple things I identify on the golf course. I always want to know where the lowest point of the golf course is, and that's one of the things I identify when I walk on my own. And the ball, that's typically where the ball is going to go. I mean, if you, and then deciphering which way the natural topography of the land goes. So if you're like in New Mexico last week, if you were looking towards the mountain, obviously it wants to break away from the mountain, because the point would be away from the mountain because it comes into two valleys. So knowing where you are in the golf course in relation to the valley, and knowing where you are in relationship to the lowest point, are all kind of important things. What's your national topography like? Where's the highest point?
You ever take what status the moon is in?
Typically no, although we did have some pretty cool full moon mornings in New Mexico. It was really strange. We were coming off we got there right at the end of the big balloon festival in Albuquerque. Like in the morning, we saw the moon, and then there were like 50 balloons in the air.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful sight.
It was, yeah. I got some cool pictures. I'd never seen anything like that, so that was pretty cool.
Where were you in New Mexico?
We were in Albuquerque.
What course did you play at?
University of New Mexico.
Okay.
So we played the collegiate course there. It's right next to the airport.
Yep.
So
I haven't played there. I drove past there once, but yeah.
Take a cart. It was one of the hardest walks I've had.
Oh wow!
And that's coming from a caddy.
It was a hard walk.
Were you carrying a bag? Yeah,
I was. Yeah, I carried a heavy bag, but it's at it's just over 5,000 feet. And you walk down into the valley and walk out of the valley on each 9.
Oh wow!
So it's probably pretty close to 800 to 1,000 foot elevation change.
Dang.
So
I'm going to ask a really dumb question. You ever want to get a bag on tour on the PGA tour?
Absolutely. That's the whole reason we're here.
That's why it was a dumb question. I knew the answer, but I just had to ask.
No, yeah, that's goal number 1.
So how do you do that? That's another dumb question, but how do you do that?
Right now, now I've got to try to get another player there, or hope that somebody's there wants me, quite honestly. You know, I've got to market myself better than what I've done in the past. You know, there are ways to find openings into guys who are looking, and I've never really, I shouldn't say never really, I've never done it before. I had Brent, and that's how it was.
Yeah.
Now that we've kind of separated, now it's like, now I need to really figure out how do I get there and how do I stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to find somebody that I can get there with, or I've got to find somebody who is there that will give me a chance, no differently than Brent gave me a chance a couple years ago.
You just need somebody to break their foot, apparently.
I'm hoping that nobody breaks their foot ever again for me to get a job.
That's on me. I hope somebody breaks their foot for you, Chris.
We're gonna start going to all the Monday queues.
We're just gonna start
waiting in the
people.
caddy line.
Be like, hey, who are you bagging for? We got a buddy of ours.
Anya Harding style.
We're gonna give them the galooly.
Do you ever tell your players where they are if they're coming down the stretch? Where they sit, what they need? No.
I normally get so.
Do you even know that?
Sometimes.
Like, are you watching on your phone? Like when we were, in Boise, we were following the leaderboard, and Brent's girlfriend, we were looking at like, no, Brent's like 4 deep and it only says 2 deep. Like, are you telling Brent where he stands, or are you telling your players where they stand at all during the round?
No, because it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
So you get invested in the process, and I believe process wins over everything.
Amen.
You do the same thing over on every shot, and you execute it with that intention. We're not going to change the game plan because we're a shot back, because the game plan is already there to give you the best shot at birdie on every hole.
I love that.
So there's no need to really change the game plan. It's not like the only way it might change is if you have a drivable par 4.
Yeah.
And then you might take a chance there, but that's really, I'm not a big fan of changing the game plan. You went with that plan for a reason, so there's no real need to change it, whether it goes one way or the other. If you don't play well, there's no real need to change it either. It's not like the game plan typically is not working. It's we're not executing shots, or we're not getting the wind right, or we're not hitting it close to the hole, or we're not putting well. But it's typically not a game plan issue. The game plan is pretty well set, and there's no need to really change it. I can tell you the first week with Brent that I worked with him, we played in the last group on Sunday with Austin Smotherman when he won. So talk about being a spoiled little brat. My first week ever on tour with Brent, we played in the last group on Sunday.
Nice.
We shot bookend 74s. We shot 74 on Thursday, 74 on Sunday. So we didn't play our best golf there. But in the middle, he shot 65, 64, and 64 is still the course record there. I thought we shot 2-3 under. I had no idea. We got done with the round afterwards, and like there was some guys from Nashville that I've made lifelong friendships with them, and they're like, "Dude, you realize what you guys shot?" I was like, "I have no idea. 3-4 under, 2 under, maybe 2-3-4." They're like, "No."
You think it's important to be emotionless as a caddy because of the process? Like, you don't see too many caddies on tour, like after their player makes a par or I mean, you do, of course, but I'm just saying, like, is it important to show zero emotion, whether they're making birdie, whether they're making par, eagle, whatever? If they have the momentum, it's just business as usual. Like, you're just focused on the process that much where you don't really show emotion.
I think it depends on your player, to be honest. I mean, working with Brent, he's a pretty emotional dude.
He's an emotional guy, yeah.
So it's hard for me not to be emotional, but at the same point, when I'm out there working, if we're on the green, I'm already worrying about where the wind is on the tee shot, because I didn't really help him much around the greens.
Huh, okay.
He might, towards the end, he called me in more than he did in the beginning, but he was pretty locked in on the greens and didn't want a contradictory opinion if I saw something different, because it would take away from him being able to make a good stroke on a good line. So I'm at that point, I'm already started on the next hole. I flipped my yardage book cover over. I'm looking, what are we hitting off the next tee? The wind should be here. So when we get there, I'm not thinking about what we need to do. I've already thought about it, and it's just, I'm ready to go. And that's just how my process worked. But as far as getting emotional, there's times to get emotional. I mean, Brent made that 40-foot putt on 18 in Indiana. I mean, it's time to get emotional there.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Arguably the moment, one of the better moments of the year on that tour.
Did he need to make that though? He already had secured his card, right?
We didn't know.
You didn't know, okay. So he
No,
thought he.
But that's the process. We go back to the process to try to get birdie out of your hole. So the only advice I gave him on that putt was, I shouldn't say I didn't give him any advice. We're walking up, and Brent said to me, "Don't worry, I'm not going to hit it as hard as I hit it in Nashville."
The putt
actually about broke the back of the cup with his eagle putt on 18. If it doesn't hit the cup, it might have gone in the water.
That was a really cool moment.
But I was like, "Yeah, dude, just hit it into that, circle of friendship, and let's just walk on out of here."
Yeah.
Bogey 16, 17, kind of knew what we needed to do, and we'll see. And his coach was there, was like, "You guys are good, and the scoreboards were pretty much broke most of the day because we had a long rain delay that morning.
Mm-hmm.
So not a lot of them worked. And I don't think I looked at a leaderboard till 15 green. And at 15 green, he actually had an eagle putt to tie the lead. So at that point, I knew we were good.
Yeah.
I knew we needed like T11 or better in order to make it. And we probably could have slipped back a little further than that. But at that point, I knew we were pretty good. Just stay in the moment, stay in the process, and just keep on. That's my job, is to always try to be in the moment and always try to make sure that we talk about the same things over and over again in the same tone, the same speed, and deliver the same information each time, because then you're not thinking, you're just reacting. And that's when your natural instincts will take over, and you don't have to think, you just do. It's kind of, people talk about being in the zone, whatever you want to call it. But the less you can think and the more you can just do, because you trust the process, you trust where you're at, you trust the number, and you just react to it, that's when it gets really good.
Love it. Process versus results. He's Chris the Caddie, our first caddy on the show. And so, I mean, we could talk for hours, Chris. We're gonna let you get going here, but okay. So, you're on whose bag again? Tell all the listeners.
I'll be working for Trip Kinney.
Okay.
He's a great kid. Like I said, I reached out to him. I met him on tour. I think I met him at finals last year. I went to finals. I didn't work finals. I just went to watch. There's some guys that I wanted to go see. Trip was one of them. Ran into him last year at finals. A friend of mine, Tim Mallow, actually caddied for him there last year. So for me, it was how do I get somebody that I want to work with, that I would feel comfortable working with, that I think that I can help.
Yeah.
Trip was number one on my list.
Why is that?
I saw him a bunch of times out on during practice rounds this year, where he was playing in a pro-am, and I was walking around the golf course and I saw him. If I was out walking, it seemed like the times where he was playing his practice rounds, I was walking a lot, where I was out walking the golf course on my own. I talked to him a bunch. We kind of hit it off. He would ask me, "Well, what do you think about this hole? Where do we need to do this?" Or just little conversations here and there over time. And, there are some people that you just root for. He's the guy that I rooted for. So I was like, well, what's better than rooting for him if I can help him?
Right.
That's awesome.
That's like the ultimate thing that I could do would be to try to help him guarantee that I feel that he belongs there. So how do we get him to belong there? Well, if I feel like I can help him and he's willing to let me, he gave me an opportunity to try to help, and, we had a great first week, and looking forward to another one at finals.
Rough Fairways is produced by Eddie Dunn and Mike Sells. That's Chris the Caddie. That conversation could have gone on for 2 more hours. So stay tuned for season 2, episode 1 of Chris the Caddie. Chris, thanks so much. Next time we're going to get your last name. For Mike, I'm Eddie. We are Rough Fairways listeners. Thank you. Be kind to each other.